welcome to the most in-depth beginner's guide to Hytale that you'll ever need. This video is designed for brand new players who want to learn everything from gathering your very first resources to building your first base, exploring the world, and eventually conquering every single zone. From the beautiful grasslands all the way to the terrifying depths of the devastated lands, we're covering it all. Now I'm going to walk you through this step by step, showing you exactly what to do from the moment that you start playing all the way up until endgame. By the time this video is over, you'll know exactly what to do, where to go, and how to conquer the world of Hytale. Now, it's important to know that Hytale is currently in early access, which means a lot of major systems and features will change over time. Because of that, I'll be continuing to make updated content as new mechanics, zones, and features are added, so you'll always have the most up-to-date information possible. When you first log into the game, you'll be greeted by a menu with 4 main sections, being Worlds, Minigames, Servers, and My Avatar. The Worlds tab introduces you to the single-player side of Hytale, where you can create your own world using custom settings, similar to how the world creation works in Minecraft. In the bottom right corner, you'll see the Create World button. Clicking it opens a menu with 3 options, being Adventure, Exploration, and Creative. As of February of 2026, the Adventure tab is currently disabled, so it's unclear what this mode will eventually offer. Exploration is the equivalent of survival mode in Minecraft, allowing you to explore the world on the standard intended difficulty. In this tab, you can choose your world name and adjust a variety of settings to your liking. These include enabling PvP, fall damage, the daylight cycle, and choosing what happens to your inventory when you die. Creative mode is essentially a god mode experience. You can explore the world without dying, access a menu containing every item in the game, and use a variety of powerful tools and devices that let you modify nearly every aspect of what you want to do. Once you've selected your preferred settings, simply hit Create World to generate your world. For this guide, I'll be focusing exclusively on Exploration mode. Now before jumping in, there are a few settings I would highly recommend adjusting to make your experience smoother. First, increase your FOV to expand your field of view. Next, enable entity health bars as they are disabled by default at launch. Beyond that, the remaining settings are entirely up to your personal preference. The other options on the main menu are Minigames, Servers, and My Avatar. The Minigames tab is currently disabled in early access, so for now, we don't know exactly what that mode will include once it's live. The Servers tab is an important one. While public servers aren't available just yet, the developers have already announced that they're coming soon. For now, this menu allows you to join servers through direct connection or by entering a server code provided by somebody else. You can also host your own servers through third-party services like Gportal. The final tab is My Avatar, which lets you fully customize your character. There are hundreds of customization options available, allowing you to create a character exactly how you want. It's important to note that this avatar carries over across all worlds and servers, and you can change it whenever you like. When you first spawn into the world, you'll be greeted inside of a small cave. This area contains basic lighting and some rubble on the ground, and you can exit through these doors at the front. Once you step outside, your world is going to look completely different from somebody else's. Every world in Hytale is uniquely generated. In most cases, you'll spawn near a green area with several different types of trees, and you'll usually see a small pile of stone nearby. Early on, there are 2 main things that you need to pay attention to, which is your health bar and your stamina bar. Stamina drains based on movement, while health decreases when you take damage. Eating food or using potions will allow your health to regenerate. Some basic controls to know right away are WASD for movement, Shift allows you to sprint, and Control lets you crouch. Pressing V switches between first person and third person camera modes. Holding C allows you to freely look around your character while moving, which is especially useful for chucking behind you. Left click is used for your basic attack, and the rest of the controls are fairly straightforward. You can open your inventory by pressing Tab. When you first open it, you'll see 9 initial crafting options, with most important being Tools, the Workbench, and the Builder's Workbench. These 2 crafting stations are essential, as they're how you're going to progress into almost everything else in the game. Pressing M will open your map and reveal the area around you. Currently, the map generates based on the direction that you are at, but it does not save exploration progress yet. Now, this is a known issue, and it's something that developers have said will be fixed soon. At the top of your screen, you'll also see a compass showing south, north, east, and west, along with icons for spawn and a hurricane-like symbol. Now, we'll talk more about those later. You can also place waypoints on your map by right-clicking, and they'll appear at the top of the bar to help you navigate. Hytale is made up of 4 different zones, each with its own theme and difficulty. Zone 1 is the Emerald Grove. This is the lush, green area that you'll see most often early on and is generally considered the most tame and beginner-friendly zone. Zone 2 is the Howling Sands. This zone is made up of the desert and the surrounding regions that share the same harsh, barren atmosphere. Zone 3 is Borea, commonly known as the snow and tundra regions. This is where the difficulty starts to ramp up significantly, with tougher environments and stronger enemies. The final area is Zone 4, known as the Devastated Lands. This zone is themed around lava and volcanic terrain and is currently the hardest zone in the game. Now it's important to understand how these zones work, because it's very easy to wander into a new one without realizing it and suddenly find yourself completely outmatched. I won't spoil too much about what you can find in each area though, I want to leave some mystery for you to discover on your own. Now that you have a quick overview of all of the zones, let's talk about the initial resources that you'll need to collect, starting with rubble. Rubble can be found by picking up small stones scattered around the ground. It's important to note that stone blocks and rubble are not the same thing. Stone will not act as rubble when crafting. Next, you'll need sticks, tree logs, and sap, all of which are obtained by chopping down trees. There are dozens of different types of trees that you can harvest across the world. Unlike Minecraft, trees and Hytales will fall when you break a log near the base, making resource collection much faster and easier. Plant fiber is another essential resource and is gathered by destroying specific bushes. The grass you see throughout the world does not give plant fiber, only these designated bushes will drop it. And finally, there's light hide, which is slightly harder to obtain early on. Light hide is gathered by killing small creatures such as chickens and bunnies, and is one of the first resources that requires combat to acquire. Now, speaking of getting hide, you'll also obtain meat from killing creatures, which leads us into the next segment, early game food. Hytale doesn't have a traditional hunger bar that tells you when you're starving. Instead, food is tied directly to your health. If you're injured, the only way to recover health is by eating. Different foods provide different benefits, and some will even tell you the exact percentage of health regeneration that they offer. Cooked meat is one of the best early game food sources. You can cook raw meat using a campfire, which can be crafted directly from your inventory. Cooked meat provides better regeneration than raw food and is worth prioritizing early on. Another solid, though more tedious food source is berry bushes. These can be found all over the world and are easy to spot. While berries don't restore as much health as cooked meat, they're a reliable early game option for staying alive when other food sources are limited. Not long after you get started, you'll notice the sun beginning to set. In minigames, nighttime introduces terrifying enemies, but in Hytale, difficulty is based more on zones than time of day. Since you'll still be in Zone 1, there aren't many serious threats to worry about at night. That said, exploring after dark can still expose you to a few dangers, such as spiders and other roaming wildlife. The cave you spawned in actually makes a great shelter for your first night, especially since Hytale is a very dark game, and as of right now, there is no gamma setting. Other enemies that may appear at night include wandering skeletons, which usually carry torches. This actually makes them easier to spot from a distance. Overall, nighttime isn't particularly difficult early on, and if you'd rather skip it entirely, you can do so by creating a crude bedroll and just sleeping through it. Now, while the nighttime in Hytale may not entirely stress you out yet, stress comes from many things, and I have a solution for that, being Mitra 9. Mitra 9 is a non-alcoholic supplement that quite literally makes you feel good. You see this guy over here? He's having a bad day. That's you without Mitra 9, and that's you with Mitra 9. These drinks give you a high without the impairment. While your buddy over there is getting drunk every night looking like a fool, you can be different and sip on over 30 different ice-cold beverages like cream soda, which is my favorite, and feel no wooziness and no hangover. You see, Mitra 9 doesn't just replace alcohol, it revolutionizes it by acting as a coffee replacement for rough mornings and even a relaxer for hectic nights. And if you thought it won't get any better, well, I'm actually refunding one lucky person their entire order every week for the next 6 months. Simply use code Goldmane or my link in the description to try Mitra 9 and save 25% off your entire order at mitra9.com. Now let's go over some of the basics that you need to know about the workbench and the builder's workbench, starting with the workbench. This is very easy to obtain early on and serves as your primary crafting station for the majority of important items in Hytale. The workbench contains 4 main tabs. The first is Survival, which is similar to the inventory crafting menu but expanded with additional items such as bows, daggers, and arrows. Next is the Tools tab. This shows every tier of tools that you can unlock, including hatchets, pickaxes, and one of the most important items in the game, the Repair Kit, which we'll cover more later. This tab also introduces you to item tiers such as Iron and Thorium, all the way up to Mithril, which currently cannot be obtained. The crafting tab displays every additional workbench required to progress further into the game. This section is important enough and it deserves its own segment later on. The final tab is Tinkering. This includes items such as traps, minecarts, spikes, training dummies, and utilities like the backpack, which is extremely useful for increasing your inventory space. The Builder's Workbench is the second major crafting station and is arguably just as important as the standard workbench. By dragging any highlighted items into its inventory, you'll unlock a large selection of crafting building pieces. This menu includes structural components like stairs, roofs, doors, windows, and many more variations. The available options change depending on the material that you place inside, meaning nearly every building resource in the game has its own unique set of parts. Because of this, the Builder's Workbench plays a crucial role in base building and customization, and it's something you'll be using constantly as you progress. Mining plays one of the biggest roles in Hytale, mainly because it's the key way you upgrade your gear and weapons. As of right now, there are 7 different types of ores that you can find, and the way ores spawn is a bit more complex than simply digging straight down. Ores are heavily tied to the zone you're in, so you won't find everything right away. The main ores available are iron, copper, silver, cobalt, thorium, gold, and adamite. Iron and copper are found in Zone 1 and are fairly common, spawning randomly across the area. Silver and thorium are found in Zone 2, with silver appearing more frequently on the surface. Cobalt and gold are found in Zone 3, with cobalt typically located underground and gold appearing around mountain peaks and along cliff edges. Zone 4 is where you'll find adamite, and it's by far the hardest ore to obtain. Adamite doesn't usually spawn in caves and instead appears on the surface, where threats are far more dangerous. It's also important to note that iron, copper, and silver can still randomly appear in higher level zones as well, so you're not completely locked out of early resources later on. Now, caves work a bit differently but still follow a similar structure to Minecraft systems. That said, caves in Hytale have much more character. They can contain dungeons, hidden areas, and a variety of unique systems, so exploring them requires caution. In some regions, the deeper you go, the more difficult mining and traversal becomes. Earlier, we briefly mentioned the hurricane icon at the top of your screen, and this symbol represents one of the most important systems in Hytale, the Forgotten Temple Gateway. These gateways can be found all across the world, and while there are many of them, they all lead to the same location. When you enter a gateway, you'll be greeted by a stairwell that leads down into an abandoned-styled cave. Inside, you'll find a few chests and a golem that's guarding the area. Defeating the golem will drop an emerald, but it's important to note that the portal is always open, so you don't need to kill the golem to enter. He's optional and not especially that difficult, making him more of an early challenge than just a requirement. Passing through the portal brings you to the floating island sanctuary. In this area, you can't damage the environment or attack any creatures. If you head towards the center, you'll find traders that offer food and basic supplies. Continuing inward leads you to a large statue known as the Memory Statue. As you explore the world and encounter creatures, you'll unlock memories tied to these encounters. These memories can then be recorded at the statue, and doing so grants rewards that become incredibly important as you progress. As of right now, there are 240 different creatures that you can discover across the world. Your first milestone unlocks after discovering 10 creatures, rewarding you with early decorative items and eternal seeds, which introduce you to the system without overwhelming you too much. As you record more memories, future milestones expand on these rewards, gradually introducing teleporters, which are extremely important for fast travel and world navigation later on. As you continue progressing, the rewards shift further into meaningful gameplay systems. You'll unlock things like morph potions, ancient gateway components, and portal fragments, alongside additional teleporters that help connect your world and bases more efficiently. The final milestone caps off the system with a harvest trophy, along with additional decorative rewards and teleportation tools. While this entire system can sound very confusing at first, it makes much more sense over time and becomes a core part of progression once you understand how it all connects. Now you can also view all of these memories that you've collected at any time by opening your inventory and navigating to the Collected Memories tab. Now this is a bit random, but it's very important that you know this early on. Certain weapons in Hytale have bonus abilities built directly into them. You can see these abilities displayed in the bottom right hand corner of your screen whenever you're holding one of these weapons. There are 3 main actions that you can use. The first is holding left click. Depending on the weapon, this will charge up a powerful attack that deals significantly more damage than a regular hit. Each weapon behaves differently, so it's worth experimenting to see how they all function. The second ability allows you to use your weapon defensively, essentially acting as a shield. This lets you block incoming damage, but it will drain your stamina every time that you're hit, so you can't rely on it endlessly. The final ability is activated with Q. As you defeat enemies, this ability charges up. Once it's ready, you can activate it to unleash a powerful special attack. Just like the other abilities, what this does depends entirely on the weapon that you're using. These mechanics aren't always obvious at first, but learning how to use them properly will make combat much easier and more rewarding as you progress. Now, there are 3 main types of hide that you'll need to craft the majority of items in Hytale. Hide comes in 3 different tiers, being light hide, medium hide, and heavy hide. And for the most part, hide is pretty easy to obtain, but it can be fairly tedious depending on what you're farming. Light hide is dropped by smaller creatures such as bunnies, sheep, stags, chickens, and many similar animals. Medium hide comes from slightly larger creatures like hogs, horses, wolves, cows, fence-stalkers, and others in that size range. And heavy hide is obtained from much larger and tougher creatures, including grizzly bears and mosshorns. All of the creatures mentioned here can be found in Zone 1, which makes early hide farming much more manageable. That said, hide isn't limited to just these creatures. There are hundreds of different enemies and animals throughout the world that will drop hide. The ones listed here are simply the easiest and safest options to start with. Hytale has a huge variety of weapons, tools, and armor, and it's important to understand how all of it works. While the system is closely tied to ores like we talked about earlier, it does function a little bit differently. The first tier of equipment that you'll have access to is crude gear. This includes your basic starter tools like the pickaxe and hatchet, but also important items such as the builder's hammer, which lets you modify how structures look. You'll also unlock a bow, which is extremely important for early range combat. All crude items can be crafted using basic stone and just a few logs. The next tier is copper, and this is where progression really starts to open up. Copper can be found easily in Zone 1, making it very accessible early on. At this stage, you'll be upgrading your tools, but you'll also need to craft new workstations. The first is the blacksmith's anvil, which allows you to craft weapons. The second is the armorer's workbench, which lets you create armor pieces like helmets and chest plates. Once you have it set up, you can fully gear yourself into copper equipment. From here, the progression becomes much more straightforward. After copper comes iron, followed by thorium, cobalt, and adamite. As of right now, mithril is not obtainable, but it is planned for future updates. One extremely important item that you'll need throughout the game, and something that can genuinely be the difference between life and death, is the shield. Like weapons and armor, shields also come in different tiers and scale alongside your progression. Shields must be equipped in your offhand, which you can do so by dragging them into that slot. Once equipped, holding right click will allow you to block incoming attacks. Overall, the tier system is fairly easy to understand, so there's no need to over-explain every individual tool or weapon. That said, here are a few helpful tips. The blacksmith's anvil offers dozens of different weapon types. Some are designed to deal heavy, slow-hitting damage, while others are better for fast, close-range combat. It's entirely up to your playstyle, so experiment with different weapons until you find the one that feels right for you. Now, one of the most important items in all of Hytale is the repair kit. You can craft them at a workbench, and they require linen scraps, iron ingots, and light leather. Linen scraps are commonly obtained from enemies like skeletons, so you'll naturally collect them just as you explore. At first, repair kits may seem a bit expensive, but they're absolutely essential. Your weapons, tools, and armor slowly degrade over time and will eventually break. Instead of constantly crafting replacements, repair kits let you fix your gear and save a massive amount of resources in the long run. One important thing to watch out for is that when an item breaks, you might not immediately realize it. You can still use broken gear, but it will deal little to no damage or provide almost no protection, which can get you killed very quickly if you're not paying attention. To use a repair kit, drag it to your hotbar and right-click to open the repair menu. From there, simply select an item that you want to fix. A good rule of thumb is to always keep at least 5 repair kits in your inventory at all times. This is one of those items you never want to be without. Now let's talk about all of the crafters in Hytale, because there are quite a few. We've already covered the first 2, but inside the workbench you'll unlock several more important stations as you progress. You've already seen the furnace, armorer's workbench, and blacksmith's anvil, so we won't go over those again. One of the next major crafters is the tanning rack, which is used to convert hide into leather. Leather is required for a huge number of recipes, making this station essential for progression. Next is the farmer's workbench, which controls almost everything related to farming. This includes crafting basic farming tools, creating seeds, growing saplings into trees, converting materials into essence of life, building planters, and crafting decorative blocks like grass and moss. Farming is a fairly deep system, and I'll be making a separate video covering it in detail. That said, getting started is simple. Craft a hoe, till the ground, and just plant seeds. After that, we have the chef's stove, which handles all of the food-related crafting. This is where you'll be making skewers, spices, and a wide variety of meals. Each recipe provides different health bonuses, and hovering over them will show you exactly what benefits that they offer. The final tier 1 crafting station is the furniture workbench. While there are additional crafters later on, these are tier 2 and will be covered separately. The furniture workbench allows you to craft everything from custom chests and beds to lighting and seasonal decorations. There's a massive selection of items here, and this is where you can really start making your base look unique and lived in. Hytale has an insane level of detail, to the point where there are easily dozens of different world structures scattered across the map. These include things like outposts, dungeons, villages, and ruins. And I want to be clear that the exact number is probably a lot higher than what I'm estimating, since I haven't discovered everything yet, but you'll encounter these structures constantly as you explore. One of the first structures that you'll likely come across are trader villages. These are populated by friendly creatures similar to the ones that you encountered in the Forgotten Temple. Here, you can trade with them for supplies, or if you choose, take their food. Outposts are another major type of structure that can be found all over the world. They come in many different variations, ranging from small camps guarded by troll-like creatures to massive fortified bases. Each outpost feels slightly different, but they all contain chests with generally solid loot. The system becomes more challenging depending on the zone that you're in, but since I'm still learning all of the variations myself, I don't want to give you any incorrect information. Once I've explored them more thoroughly, I'll be making a dedicated video covering outposts in full detail. Dungeons are another major feature and come in multiple forms. Some are small and hidden underground in caves, while others start on the surface and leap down below into the massive corridors and chambers. The larger dungeons are far more dangerous, but tend to reward you with some of the best loot that I've found so far. Deep underground, you may also discover lava-filled areas packed with extremely powerful creatures. These regions are especially tough early on, but chances are you've already stumbled into one without realizing just how dangerous that it was. The final type of structure that you'll encounter are ruins. These are scattered randomly across the map and usually contain 1 or 2 chests, often without any enemies guarding them. They're excellent for early game loot and provide a nice boost in resources when you're just starting out. As with some of the other systems, I'm still learning all of the variations here, so I don't want to over-explain until I'm fully confident. Essence plays a huge role in Hytale and is tied into many of the game's core systems. There are 5 different types of essence, and each one is obtained in a different way. The first is Essence of Life, which you'll collect primarily from harvesting crops. This essence is used for trading with NPCs and is also heavily used in the farmer's workbench to create various items. In some cases, you'll even convert items back into Essence of Life, making it one of the most commonly used essences early on. Essence of the Water is obtained by trapping fish in fish baskets, while Essence of Ice comes from creatures found in snowy or tundra regions. Essence of Fire is earned by killing creatures in lava-heavy areas, most commonly in Zone 4. The final type is Essence of the Void, which is obtained by killing creatures that spawn at night. These can be a bit confusing at first because they don't usually appear in Zone 1 right away. Void creatures are more common in Zones 2 and 3, and while they look intimidating, they're not as difficult to defeat as they seem. Some of the larger flying void creatures will also drop void hearts. These are important for future crafting systems, so make sure that you keep them when you find them. So now that you know how to obtain the different essences, the next question is, how do you actually use them? Well, Essence of Life is the most straightforward, as it's used directly in the farmer's workbench for crops and related items. The other essences are more advanced, which is where Tier 2 crafters come into play. The most important Tier 2 crafting station for essence-based progression is the Arcanist's workbench. This is where you'll craft things like ancient gateways and gateway fragments, which require specific essences to create. These gateways lead to other dimensions, which we'll cover later on in the video, since they're tied directly into late game. You'll also use these essences to craft totems and staffs, which both consume essence as a part of their functionality. This system can feel very confusing at first, but once you start interacting with it hands-on, everything begins to click very quickly. This is where we start getting into Tier 2 and 3 workbenches. Inside many of the crafting stations, you'll notice an upgrade option that allows you to unlock new functionality. Not every crafter has this system, but the ones that do will clearly show what materials are required to upgrade them, and these upgrades are not cheap. Upgrading a crafting station can do a few different things. In some cases, like the furnace, upgrades will increase the number of available slots. In other cases, upgrades unlock entirely new crafting recipes and systems. When you upgrade the workbench, it specifically upgrades 3 additional crafting stations, which are key to progressing further into the game. These 3 new crafting stations are extremely important for progression. The first is the salvage workbench, which allows you to break down unwanted items such as armor, tools, and weapons. When salvaging items, you'll receive a portion of the original resources back, making this a great way to recover materials instead of wasting old gear. Next is the Alchemist's workbench, which is used to craft potions and a specific type of bomb. Here, you can make antidotes, health potions, stamina potions, and even morph potions that let you temporarily transform into creatures like a dog or even a mouse. These potions are incredibly useful and have saved me countless times, so they're not something that you want to overlook. The final and most complex crafter is the Arcanist's workbench. Now, while we briefly mentioned this earlier, this is where you craft portals that allow you to fast travel across the world. These portals can be connected together, letting you build an extensive travel network anywhere on the map. And you can also link multiple portals together, making long distance travel much easier. This workbench also lets you craft ancient gateways and gateway fragments, which we'll cover more shortly. In addition to portals, you can create totems and staffs here. The healing totem restores health to you and nearby allies within its range, while the slowing totem reduces the movement speed of nearby enemies. You'll also unlock 2 magical weapons, the Flame Crystal Staff and the Ice Crystal Staff. The Flame Crystal Staff consumes fire essence as ammunition to shoot fire beams at enemies, while the Ice Staff functions the same way but consumes ice essence instead. Both of these staffs require rubies and sapphires, which can be found deep within the cores of the volcanoes in Zone 4. The Ancient Gateway is what allows you to travel to 3 different dimensions. Each of these dimensions contain unique environments, structures, and opportunities to find loot. That said, in their current state, these dimensions aren't the best source of loot in my opinion, and there are rumors that they may eventually be removed from the game. Once you enter an Ancient Gateway, you're placed on a strict 7-minute timer. During that time, you're free to explore, fight enemies, and encounter new creatures that don't appear in the main world. These areas are noticeably more dangerous, so whether or not you choose to enter them, it really depends on how prepared that you are. Overall, ancient gateways are optional content right now, but they're still worth checking out at least once so you understand how they work and what they have to offer. Overall, Hytale has a lot to offer, and it would be impossible to cover every single system in just one video. I try to focus on as many of the core basics as possible to give new players a strong foundation to build on. It's also important to remember that this game is still in early access, so things are going to change over time and some features may be broken or reworked. That said, for an early access title, Hytale already has a surprising amount of content that for the most part functions really well. I'm still relatively new to the game myself, so I know I may have missed a few things here and there. If I did, feel free to correct me in the comments. I'll be continuing to make more Hytale content as updates roll out and I learn more about the game. Anyways, thanks for watching.